First reading from Samuel, Saul is wandering all around central Israel. His dad Kish has lost his donkeys and he's out looking for them. He sends Saul with one of his servants to look for the donkeys. And he goes far and wide looking for these donkeys. He goes east to the hills of Ephraim, and then north to Shalisha, and then south down to the land of Benjamin. And I looked at all that and said, golly, what is this? And so I got my map out and I traced it out. It's this huge equilateral triangle, like 40 miles on the side, like foot of the Bay Bridge to Ocean Springs is like 40 miles. And so calculate the area that it's like 700 square miles looking for these donkeys. And so he's made the route, hadn't found the donkeys. He's been gone a long time, so long that actually somebody else had gotten the donkeys and brought them back to Kish. And his dad's now not worried about the donkeys, he's worried about Saul. Where the heck is Saul after all this? And it had to be a little disappointing for Saul because he's, wandering, looking, searching, and not finding. But God's leading him exactly where he wants him. He leads him to the prophet Samuel, who anoints him. And God told Samuel to anoint Saul to be the leader of his people, to govern Israel and to protect them from their enemies, the countries surrounding them or the people surrounding them, like the Philistines, which we heard about earlier in this week, in the battle that the Israelites had with the Philistines and lost terribly. And so sometimes we wander aimlessly. And we don't know really what we're after, but we're looking for happiness or something like that. And God's always with us, and he's always directing us so that he brings us to himself, just like he brought Saul to Samuel. Now in our gospel, Jesus calls Levi, the tax collector. We know him as St. Matthew, the evangelist and apostle of Jesus. And he calls him to follow him. And he gets up and he just leaves it and he goes and follows Jesus. And that evening they go to Matthew's house and they're having dinner, and all his buddies are coming by, all these tax collectors, and there's grumbling. There's the scribes and the Pharisees just do not like what they're seeing. And that gospel passage gives us two notions of religion. And one is the Pharisees, and the other is Jesus' notion. And in the Pharisees' notion of religion, there's a separation. We have to have those that judge themselves righteous and just and separate them from the unrighteous and sinners. And so the sinners that he had judged, certainly with the Pharisees, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, and even people who were sick, like the people with leprosy. They figured that they were suffering because of a sin that they had committed, and that's why they had leprosy. And so that notion of the Pharisees of religion is you separate the two. And then Jesus, who's a teacher of truth and teaches us the ways of holiness, he associates with sinners. He gets close to them. He touches them like he touched the leper earlier in the week, the story about Jesus curing the leper. And he eats with them, like today with eating with the tax collectors and stuff. And when he's questioned about it, and people say, why do you do that? These are sinners that you're hanging around with. Why are you doing that? And he says, those who are well do not need a physician, but the sick do. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. And that's really good news for us, because if we're honest and humble with ourselves, realize that we are all sinners, and Jesus came to save us. And if we consider ourselves righteous and perfect and don't need Christ, we block Christ off from us. So today, as we go through our day, we should thank God for sending Jesus, and Jesus for choosing to associate with sinners like us so that we can be saved and he can bring us to eternal happiness with him one day.